Repowering London, as I said, is a community-based organisation. We started developing the idea, the vision, sometime in 2011, and we've been meeting in the pub on a weekly, monthly basis, taking it from an idea, from a vision concept to something that people understood what it meant like and what did it mean. Our main aim is to create local energy projects. Energy in its two forms, not just renewable energy, clean energy, but in terms of people energy, and that's quite key to what we do. It's about involving people and putting communities at heart of everything. So our vision is to create resilient, empowered communities across London. Our focus is in London at the moment, but in a couple of years we hope to expand beyond London. And we aim to do this by creating local energy projects, not necessarily only about solar. Solar is an easy technology, people understand that it's practical, but we hope to move beyond solar and look at heat as well. But it's about scaling. But there are several. We started with solar, and there's massive potential in London. We've got so many buildings and so many empty roofs, which is not really kind of used to its full potential, and the idea is to have lots of project solar panels and energy being generated in local communities. That's an image of our first project in Brixton, one of the roof spaces there. As I mentioned, our journey started from Lambeth inner London city borough, and it has a lot of discharged communities, local social housing estates. And we work very closely with Lambeth Council, but our main focus started from Brixton. And I don't know if anyone's been to Brixton. Yeah, it's just an amazing place in terms of its vibrancy, activity, and there's a lot happening. We were very fortunate when we started that we had a transition group that was there. Transition Town Brixton, very well known and famous for a lot of what they've done around local currencies, about involving people, incubating really creative ideas. And when we were developing, we worked very closely with Transition Town Brixton. When we started having a vision, what is it that we want to do? We want to generate energy, renewable energy, low carbon energy. We want to empower communities. It's about putting communities at the heart of the program. And its development and its design. It's about people living in the local area benefiting from such schemes. They control it, they own it, they manage it. And providing ethical, socially responsible investment opportunities. We wanted to address food poverty, with the rising prices of the energy bills. And there's also a lot around kind of training, work experience, employment opportunities for people. And we wanted to bring all of it together in our project. So how does it work? Great. We started off with this is our ideal, this is our vision. So how do you make it work? And these ideas came up at a time when the feed-in tariff, the government had introduced the feed-in tariff, which is an incentive. So it's guaranteed by the government. It's an incentive, it's a payment that the government makes for generating renewable energy. So it's made to kind of kickstart more deployment of renewable energy technologies. We use that as a way in which we could generate an income stream. So the solar panel is the technology. It helps to bring that income into a local area. But the governance that we use with a cooperative structure. So we set up cooperatives. And the cooperative structures, most people would know, have one vote, one member kind of policy, democratic principles, and that's something that we really bought into. It was about, whether you invest £1 or whether you invest 250 or 10,000, you have that equal voice, you have an equal platform, and you're included. The cooperative structure is what we use as our governance mechanism. The solar panels help to bring in the energy. Local people got involved through investments, so they would invest in the scheme, and then they would benefit from financial return, be it a return on their investment, 3 to 4% average return on our project, and they they would also benefit from a ring-fenced community fund, which we then set aside going back into the community with local people deciding how they want to spend the money. So while we've been there were different income streams for our cooperatives. We looked at, we initially started off with looking at group size, technical feasibility, what technology was suitable, looking at income streams, so we did a detailed business planning. Feed-in tariff is the main key element that made these projects viable, really. On the other hand, the government and the fluctuations of the feed-in tariff also kind of almost kind of delayed the project starting and making it happen. And I know that many projects across London and the UK really have been affected by changes in the feed-in tariff. But what was really important for our model was that community fund and about holding it into what does it mean for local people, what does it mean for the residents of the estate, how are they going to benefit. And we brought in a lot of the training, work experience and internships for young people on the estate, for local people. So that's how the government structure works. Well, to develop and deliver a community energy project, it takes a lot. When we started our first project in Brixton, it took us at least a year to get the project from concept to delivery. And there was so much involved, and I don't think when we started, we kind of fully understood all the different layers that was involved. But, that was our journey, and we did it the first time, but, now we've done it a couple of times, and we've got 3 projects in Brixton, we're on a 4th in Hackney, and we know what's needed to be done. Having said that, each community is very different, and each project has its own little subtle nuances that you have to deal with. But pretty much we kind of narrowed down what we have to do. And it ranges from site identification, looking at feasibility, business planning, financial models, getting funding to be able to resource it. A lot of what we did in our first project was largely volunteer-led. We had thousands of volunteer hours go into it. At that time, I was working for Lambeth Council, and so my time was in-kind support from Lambeth Council. There's a lot of legal matters that need to be addressed. If you're putting solar panels on a roof, you don't own the building, because what we did was work in social housing blocks. The estate we worked on was Leicester Estate in Brixton. And they, it was owned by Lambeth Council, so we had to kind of understand what does the lease agreement look like, how would we supply energy, how do you make your vision a reality, really. And there was a lot of accounting, there was a lot of kind of negotiations with the energy providers, metering, procurement, who's going to install the solar panels, what's going to be the price, a lot. But the good thing is that Repowering London has done it a couple of times. We're here now to be able to share our experience and the knowledge that we've gained with other local community groups across London. So now we're mentoring at least 5 community groups. What's that one? I think what we're here about today is understanding how you reach out to people in local communities, how you engage with people, how do you take it from simple consultation to engagement to empowerment to co-production. Because a lot of what we do is co-production, and it's about everyone working together with a shared common vision. We start off our projects, with standard consultation techniques, and we do a lot of door knocking. We run a lot of events. We find out what's ongoing, what is the infrastructure in place already, because a lot of communities have networks, have ongoing activities and groups meeting, and they start finding out who they are, where they are, and how to get involved, really. When I say who, before any project, it's good to start finding out who is your target audience, who you're working with, what are their needs, what are their priorities, what are the shared values, and who's out there, what networks exist. As I said, we were really fortunate when we started. We had Transition Town Brixton in the Brixton area, which is a really strong engagement of people. But a lot of people say, well, that's engaging the same old. But that's not true. I think every individual group has a real sense of purpose. While you've got your active, engaged people, they're like gold dust, because they help reach out to more other people in the community. Word of mouth, peer to peer. That's the kind of approach that really works. That's what we did. We did a lot of door knocking. A lot of people living on the local estates, they really don't have time to come out to events, and a lot of times, you send a standard leaflet through the door. It's not read. And I think it's about having, in terms of outreach, it's about having a mixed approach. You use the standard flyers and leaflets and newsletters, but I think the people approach is really important, and it's about finding out who they are, and door knocking was a great way of engaging with people and talking to them, having a conversation. Often you don't reach out to as many people, but what we did was we ran door knocking exercises at different times in the day, in the week, and a lot of volunteer time. Local people got involved in doing that. So it kind of created a bit of a cycle there where once we started door knocking, told people about what we were doing and understood, and they understood what we were talking about. They were like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this. We got them involved to do the door knocking for us, along with us as well. Because it gives a different message, it's a different kind of power attached to it when local people living on their own estates, own blocks, go out there talking to their own friends and neighbours. And that's what really helps in identifying more people. It helps in taking ownership and people being more involved, really. Why do we do all of this? And it's all really very intensive. And I don't think a lot of times funding bodies and organisations and policymakers don't really understand what's involved in getting people involved. What's involved in building the base for trust and community groups coming together. And it's about being inclusive as well. It's about including everybody. I think this exercise really helps us kind of tone our message and our communication, because it's about making it more relevant. When we go around door knocking, we don't say, "Oh, we hear about tackling, food poverty and addressing climate change." It's not the message, because that's not what's relevant or important to who we're talking to. Really, it's about saving money on your energy bills. It's about installing solar panels. It's about training work experience. Somebody who would be interested in a work experience or paid internships. And those are the kind of points that actually came across and got people more engaged, more involved. So that's a lot about consultation. We had a lot of engagement. So taking it from just talking to people, finding out what they want to do, to kind of having practical activities on the estate, running solar panels, making workshops is absolutely brilliant. It's an amazing tool to get people involved. And I suppose a lot of people in London or England basically say solar panels, is it really going to generate renewable, energy? And we're like, yes, it is. It will. And the solar panel making workshops were brilliant. It helped bring a lot of young people, old people, different members of the community together. And really excited about solar panels. So running intergenerational activities, making it really practical. We did draft proofing, train the young people on the estates about what is energy efficiency, what does it mean, how to understand your bills, your energy bills, just giving them practical tools. The activities that we ran will also benefit to them, obviously. Draft proofing and insulating their homes, putting brushes for their boxes, making it practical, making it relevant really helps. I suppose after you've done your consultation, you've got people involved, you've got activities, you've got a ready group going, you slowly get the formation of your group and group of people who are meeting on a regular basis. What we found was it was really kind of important to have a inclusive process where we ran weekly meetings on the estates, and it was just an open meeting where anyone could come in, drop in, join the meeting, or leave, and everyone was kind of involved in the whole process. And we had a set group of people from the start to the finish, but then it also allowed for others who probably didn't have time to give on a weekly basis, but they wanted to find out about it, wanted to get involved. And those are the places where we were on the estate, in a particular place, on a regular basis. That constant presence on the estates really helped get people involved. But it's also about agreeing certain rules and principles. You know, you can often have meetings and people who have the strongest voice and it's generally quite, strongly opinionated. They're the ones who kind of dominate the meetings. But I think, well, it's about setting up the principles from early on, agreeing, rules and allowing for everyone else to participate and making sure that everyone's voice is heard. And so I think at that stage it's quite important to have a good chair or facilitator, within the group who ensures that, you're actually listening to what everyone is saying and everyone feels included. And, agreeing by consensus, I used to think, gosh, that's going to be really difficult with a group of people. But it's just amazing sitting in some of these meetings and just seeing how, a group of people can come together and kind of, by mutual respect, kind of come to an understanding, a shared common understanding, really. And it's about being, practical, being respectful, and being able to kind of understand each other's point of views, really. And I think sometimes they sit there and I'm like, this is amazing, this democratic process works. And it's brilliant when it does. And often, I think having large groups of people or small groups of people, it works out in the end where everyone comes to an agreement. One of the key elements of our programs is running training and work experience. And as I said, for a lot of the communities that we work in, it's about not only about in solar panels creating resilience by energy security, but it's also about local people, local jobs. And working with a lot of the young people is quite crucial in terms of building skills for future generations. We've had a lot of people kind of come through by the mums of the estate coming and saying, well, I want so and so and so and so to join the scheme, and then dragging them out, making sure that they come on time. And there are a lot of teething issues, working with young people, because obviously their priorities are different, and they need a lot of incentives. But once you get there, and when you're working with their mums and you're working with their respected community leaders, they often help to get them to toe the line. We've gone from where on our first project we actually worked with one person who was an electrical engineer and he benefited from work experience. And in our third project we had a team of 10 people, 10 young people who went through the internship with us. And it went from 10 weeks to 15 weeks, and they actually kept coming again and again because they were involved. And the young people actually came out doing the door knocking with us. They helped us organize events. They spoke at events. And that's when you're taking it to the next level, where you've got ownership, you've got control, and you've got people feeling involved and participating. A lot of Kamal, after his work experience, he got headhunted and he's working for Crossrail. Some of them were in school and they felt confident, they learned skills, and they went on to I think join themselves and become kind of take on more active roles in what they were doing. So I think there were some really good stories from that. Not everyone is interested in the technology of solar panels, and I think that's the beauty about our community energy projects, because it's about events, it's about management, it's about kind of people, it's about interaction. There's a lot more involved, financial, IT, legal, technical. So giving not only the young people but even residents getting involved in the different elements, everyone felt like they had a role, and just because they didn't have the technical expertise didn't mean that they couldn't be involved. And I think that was really great in bringing people together. This is more of a slide to say, there's always a core group of people that you'll be working with, and who might be the ones that are more actively involved on a day-to-day basis. So that doesn't mean that you aren't reaching out to wider people, and there are people who come in volunteering, some more loosely affiliated with the group and come in, maybe they've come into a meeting or an event or kind of indirectly engaged, and then you've got the wider community that you're reaching out to. But it's a core group of people that you're working with really, who are your active, engaged members. And largely live in the local area. I've been talking about projects and how it's not only about solar panels, and we like to unpack it in three different ways. We like to say community energy projects provide social, environmental, and financial return, really, and it's looking at sustainability in a more holistic way. A lot of the social value that we provide is communities coming together, being actively involved and participating. Some of the group members who started off attending the group meetings and then took on a bit more responsibility, taking minutes, taking notes, felt empowered to then become directors of the second or the third project, and that's kind of journey. A lot of colleagues that I worked with, through the schemes, then went on and became, the chair of their own TRA, and they take on more roles and responsibilities. A lot of what we did around the training, work experience, our social skills that we're building in the communities. Some of the environmental, obviously, I didn't tell you much about that really, besides, generating renewable energy and reducing carbon emissions, and creating resilience and secure energy supplies to financial returns. And I think, in a way, the feed-in tariff is an amazing kind of incentive really that's made a lot of these projects viable. While from an energy point of view, you'd like to reduce energy first and then start generating energy, we've kind of done it the other way around, mainly because we've been able to generate an income stream for the community. But then that income stream is then kind of split, where you're giving energy, you're paying your investors a return on their investment, but you're also creating a ring-fenced fund for community groups. And on our first project, Brixton Energy Solar One, the fund that we created is going back into taking more training and work experience programs for young people on the estate. So there's a massive potential in terms of renewable energy generation in London. There are huge amounts of assets, and this is kind of out of date. I think is that 3.5 kilowatts of London has that potential, or is it
gigawatts?
Gigawatts. Sorry.
Million times 3.
And
4,000 horsepower for the year.
Repowering's ambition is to repower and power and create local resilient communities in London, tapping into all of those assets. Some of our achievements, we set up the first inner city cooperative in London, in the UK, as a matter of fact, because a lot of the community energy projects are in rural areas, and Brixton Energy Solar One was the first in the inner city environment. We did the first project on the social housing estate, working with London Council. We had a ring-fenced fund for community benefit. We actually were able to sell the energy carbon credits that we generated from the first project and the second project, and gain a secondary income for it. And we also used local currency, so we used Brixton pounds so people were able to invest in the schemes using Brixton pounds. With our partners, as I said, Transition Town Brixton, quite crucial in our first project, London Council, and we've been, the model that we've created and developed has won a couple of awards. So we've won the Sustainable Housing Community Finance Award and Business Green Leadership Award. I think we've nominated for that. So yeah, I mean that's what we've done, and it's about, we started from Brixton, and I said we're now working with 5 community groups across London, and it's about creating empowered, resilient communities and making it relevant to the residents in the local areas. Thank you. That's me in my presentation. I know I've been talking for a really long time, so any questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Thank you very much for that presentation. It's very interesting. You mentioned that, I did read that in the local paper that there is a scheme in Hackney, and you mentioned that, you referred to that. I wonder if you could tell me how that was, was there a transition happening? How did you actually get that developed in the community? What's the possibility for involvement in that? Another question is, the viability of the whole project, if you like, is it vulnerable? because of the feed-in tariff, and the government really warned perhaps hostility to the feed-in tariff, and the fact that the big energy companies are perhaps going to become unwilling to pay out money to local communities, when their concern perhaps is more the great expense in running the grid, which they're not necessarily going to get any income from. They're paying out, and they've got huge those economic costs to bear in mind.
First, the first one. Yes, we are involved with Hackney Energy. One of the chair or co-founders of Hackney, there's a community group called Hackney Energy, where one of the co-founders was she was inspired by our Brixton Energy project, and she had come and attended some of our events. She wanted to set up something similar in Hackney, and we kind of supported her in that process, and through that process, she got more people involved, within Hackney really. So it's kind of, in a way, Brixton Energy inspired Hackney Energy and some of the people who were involved in it. And we had also started discussion with Hackney Council. So taking the similar approach where we worked with Lambeth Council in Brixton, Hackney Council were quite really kind of supported and involved, and they felt like this is something that they wanted to do. So Repowering is in a formal kind of contractual agreement with Hackney Council, and we've been supporting Hackney Energy to kind of run a project in Hackney, and we're working on an estate there called Bannister House, and that's just been recently announced, and we're kind of working on the estate, talking to residents, getting involved. The cooperative is yet to be kind of registered. I mean, it's going to be registered in the next couple of weeks, but we've got local people as directors of that cooperative, and we're kind of supporting the environment and supporting them in taking the project from start to finish. And so I think we would see a project launch maybe early July or something in terms of share offer.
Is Hackney Energy the name of the cooperative?
No, the cooperative because the project's from Bannister House, so the Bannister House Solar Cooperative. So it's about the local name and brand is really important, because that's what people want to invest in schemes.
And the other issue about the feed-in tariff.
The other issue about the feed-in tariff, yes, I mean, it's while it was a benefit, it's also on the other hand it's a challenge. And what happens, the feed-in tariff is constantly being kind of it's on a regression really, so it's constantly reducing. On the other hand, we found that the cost of solar panels have also reduced. So initially, when we paid a lot more for our solar panels, and now that's kind of, so it is balancing out. But I think in terms of making our financial model more robust, where we're not totally dependent on feed-in tariffs, it's about being able to supply that energy directly to residents, and that's a way of kind of unlocking that dependency on the feed-in tariffs. And if the models are built where we can supply that energy directly to residents, then you're shifting away from feed-in tariffs. At the moment, our solar panels are plugged into communal supplies, so we're powering lifts, community spaces, offices, and it's still a lot less. Whereas we want to be able to move to a place where we're able to provide clean, community-owned renewable energy directly to residents living on those blocks, really. And that's a more independent, resilient model. But there's quite a lot to kind of unpack in what that means, and the regulations and policies to make that happen. So I'm going to take the question in the back.
I just want to ask about, you say you go through the return to shareholders, 3-5%. How much money at the moment do you hope to put into energy reduction, energy, onto energy
For the community farms and
that's right, yeah.
Well, our first couple of projects are really small, so they're like 37 kilowatts to 50 kilowatts, which are small projects, and generating something like £600 to £1,000 per year. And those are small funds to start with, but nevertheless, on a local estate, that's quite a lot of money in terms of value that you can get out of it. We also, as I mentioned, we sold our carbon credits and generated a bit more, larger pots of money, which is plowed back into the community fund. But where we're going to have projects where we're going above 100 kilowatts, you generate more income for the local community. And to me, having a local cooperative, group of people, an organisation, that these projects run for 20 years and they live for a long time in the community. It's a great mechanism to leverage more funding and to kind of tie into, you're looking at energy first, but then people can get involved in other kind of schemes like maybe food growing or other things that are more relevant at that time really for the project. But it's all driven and decided by the members of the cooperative and the local people.
I think amazing work that you do. Somebody just asked me the other day, I live in Hackney, someone just asked, oh gosh, is there a project like that in Hackney? Or I was talking about some community project, and I just laughed on the face of my response was like, oh, as if, and here we are. So I think it's brilliant, that's really good, and I want to find out more. Kind of in relation to the last two questions, it was about the financial model around it. So obviously you're helping communities with their own cooperatives save money and become independent and self-sufficient with their energy needs. And then you guys as an organisation have your own financial model, which you have shareholders who have invested money in what you're doing. Is that right? Or
no, it's the cooperatives, the local cooperatives have their investors and they get return on investment. So they Brixton Energy, Solar 1, Solar 2 and 3 are individual cooperatives.
Right.
Repowering London as an organisation comes in, we're set up as a cooperative as well. Our members are the local co-ops and community groups that we work with. So our model is slightly different to the individual cooperatives. We get our funding as an organisation from government grant funds, securing funds to local authorities, so the different models in which we look at getting our funding.
So my question actually was around the issue of carbon credits, because that is an area that has a lot of, I'd say, quite controversial because of the whole carbon credit system just legitimising people or organisation companies, corporations who can buy carbon credits. Really, they're just using them to legitimise the continued pollution and So I was kind of curious to know how much of your financial model is dependent on that, and actually whether it's something you would like to phase out or something that you're working on building.
No, it's we're not dependent on it on carbon credits. I think what happened with our first two projects was because we were working on an estate that was already getting a community energy savings program funding for massive retrofit through that. And I think it was E.ON who were involved in that project. So we were able to couple up and be able to just benefit from selling our carbon credits to them. But we're not, as Repowering London, we're not dependent on that kind of, as that was a one-off really, and it's not what we're looking at in terms of future forecasting. But there are other mechanisms that, that could come in place, which would be under Section 106 or community infrastructure levies, which is about where new developments aren't able to meet their carbon reduction commitments due to, building type or whatever. They are then penalised and they would be fined. And that could be a source of income that could come in for local energy projects. So maybe something along those lines, but less around, direct carbon offsets.
I'm just going to say is that next Saturday, I don't know whether in North London, there's a transition Tufnell Park community energy meeting. Their first one ever. I've no idea who was organising it apart from Rashid Tufnell Park and someone from Hackney Street. But I suspect you're involved as well.
I do know Millie Darling from Hackney would be talking about that event.
Sorry to focus on the local thing, but I live in Haringey. Is there anything similar there? Because I'm actually getting involved as well.
Well, I live in Lewisham, so.
It's in Islington, that's not my borough.
Haringey has a group called N10OU.
And how is it about them? No, that's in Muscle Hill.
We are mentoring them at the moment to develop a project within Haringey, and we're kind of talking to Haringey Council. But things are still in the development phase. Yeah, and we would love to be able to to work with more local authorities and with their property portfolio, which is massive with social housing blocks, really.
Because I'm sure we've got the local election, I'm doing a bit of lobbying on that. If you give me, I do remember, because I was involved in Transition Haringey, and there was a group of people that lived in Maple Hill that said, oh, we want to set up our own energy co-op. This is about 3 or 4 years ago. So they went off and did it. But then I sort of forgot all about it. And
Well, yes, sir. Energy would be they've set us cooperative and we're working with them.
Okay.
There's a potential site.
Because for me, I live in Lewisham, because I'm in Scissor, but then actually I think I still vote in Haringey.
So I think it's definitely a movement. To be honest, such a scheme did not exist in London. We developed it in Lambeth, and at that time, Lambeth is still kind of now it is a cooperative council, which means it's about putting citizens at the heart of any kind of service delivery. And because I was working within Lambeth Council, we helped with the design development and taking the concept really and making it happen. So I think Lambeth is quite way ahead in terms of what it's done. It's kind of been quite pioneering, and we're hoping that with the government launching their community energy strategy, when did that really get launched? I think earlier this year in Jan. The other local authorities will come on board and do a lot more. But it's still very much. I think we can't entirely depend on local authorities. There are other kind of there are housing associations, RSLs, and other opportunities as well to be able to tap into roof assets really, and look at other technologies. And we're quite keen to develop heat. Heat, not necessarily air source heat pumps, but looking at a different, because electricity and solar kind of addresses electrical kind of supply, but it's about heating, and that's where a lot of residents pay a lot more.
I think with ground source, you do need to have ground. So, I mean, yes, I'm sure there are loads of estates which have got, open land where you can actually sink, you need to sink the pipes in. And they do generate, for every kilowatt of energy you put in, they get 2 or 3 kilowatts of heat. So they are very low carbon, and especially if the source energy is say solar, you could have a solar system which would be powering a ground source heat pump, which would be, very, very low carbon system. Well, I mean,
there's a lot of other technologies out there.
And then would you recommend for people looking to set up like a co-op or a similar kind of project?
I think CSE have done good work on that. Centre for Sustainable Energy, CSE. They've got a resource section, and there's quite a lot of work that they've put up. There are other, I would use that. I would recommend that as a starting point for space. And I think low carbon hub as well might have some information on there as well.
Can I just ask you, is GM without the council, you don't go far, they're kind of a vital strategic partner. So how do you start with the council? Where do you start? How do you get into the conversation that the council will actually be willing to cooperate and respect your aims, and so you're not actually an elected council, but you're just a kind of mere human on the outside of the corridor of power. How do you do that?
Yes, you're right. The local authorities are quite a key strategic partner, but there is, in terms of being able to get permission to use those and assets really as well. Our experience has been you have to kind of look at it getting councillors involved. So, if you're a local resident, councillors would, if they have open set surgeries where you can go and talk to them and take in ideas. Councillors are often really, they do want to meet people, they want to hear ideas, and they will take it and champion it through the organisation. But while you get the political support, there's a lot of, it's important to kind of engage with the officers as well, because in terms of implementation, taking it forward and aligning it with their set objectives and goals, the officers need to get on board as well. And often the sustainability environmental officer would be the place to start really. And given that we've already done it and we've got partnerships with a couple of local authorities, I think that's kind of starting point to say that look, it's already been tested, tried, and developed, and local authorities are getting on board. So I think while some of the local authorities are pioneering and are willing to take the risk to take things off the ground, others are more like, oh, who else has done it, what's out there, and they want to understand that. So being able to say that's already happened is a good starting point. And also, we've got quite a lot of expertise in kind of working with local authorities that I used to work for. So, it's just kind of knowing how it works, this governance structure, and how to kind of tailor your message and provide proposals. It's really about linking in with their vision and their strategic goals and objectives, really. And at the moment, with the fuel policy strategy, a lot of local authorities have that. That's a key area to kind of tap into, and national policy as well.
You talked about organising events for the local community. Would you organise an event for the local council to kind of show them the objectives, to show them the PowerPoint, talk them through the issues, and kind of get them on board?
We haven't organised events, but with the local authorities that we're working with, we have like several kind of meetings, and the meetings is about bringing different departments together. Because as I said, these projects are so kind of they kind of integrate several different departments, be it housing, finance, legal, procurement, and the sustainability team. They all might be sitting in different parts of the organisation. So what we have done is kind of bring the right people together in those meetings. But I think we have, as Repowering, we have thought about kind of let's get a couple of local authorities together and engage with them together and unpack what it would look like. Yeah, it's definitely something that we would consider doing. I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, actually, I was potentially considering retracting my question. In Hackney, is that the first project in Hackney that,
Yes.
that you know of? Or is that
That is the first,
the first one. And presumably you will have had to engage with the council around that.
Yeah.
So presumably that's now laid groundwork for just mindful of the fact that in Hackney there is so much residential development that's going on. I was wondering whether another strand of the work could potentially be like getting into those projects before they're talking to the council about those projects and the planning that's approved for those
At the development
stage to make them all self-sustainable development.
Absolutely. I mean, even with Lambeth, it took us, our first couple of projects were pilots. And when we started having a discussion around, let's look at your portfolio in a strategic way, where you've got scaffolding going up, you've got roof work happening, let's look at linking in with all tunnels at the same time, make the best economies of scale. It took a while for them to, to then understand what would that look like, and, to take anything on a more large scale kind of level, local authorities are tied by various kind of procurement frameworks and regulations. And we're actually in discussion with Lambeth right now in terms of what kind of models would be possible building communities and having community energy schemes for a borough. And we're looking at joint venture models, but we need to understand what that looks like. So it's going to take a little while to kind of look at the governance structures and see how you can have such a scheme on a borough-wide level. And Hackney are very much kind of, this is a demonstration project, let's see how it goes. The success of it will then, we could look at things on a more kind of, borough-wide strategic level. But yeah, those discussions are happening.
Have you thought about extending this sort of program beyond public and social housing to, for example, I work in the university and I've been trying for a long time to persuade the university to adopt, carbon reduction measures, and they're already introducing some. But I can see in terms of the training and skills aspect, which are a very good way of, maybe connecting this with the students of the community and so on, and working with the science faculties within the university, and because it is a very large, universities often have a very key role, for example, within communities and very large employers.
Yeah, I think we would love to. I think it's just a matter of us finding the resources and teams to progress such discussions. So we, at the moment, so far our clients have had largely in local authorities, but we definitely would like to take that beyond just local authorities.
And you could do hospitals as well.
Hospitals, yes, is a potential.
Corporations.
Yes, it is, and to be fair, in terms of as an organisation, we have a team of 9, but in terms of day-to-day, we have 2 people who work on a day-to-day basis. And, it's been just, we're quite a small national organisation, but because this area is in development and it's a really niche market, it's really about kind of going from delivering projects and being successful and then to kind of scaling. And we're at that point where we're really getting a lot of interest and support, and how do we then as an organisation take that from being small scale to larger deployment areas. We'd love to get more people on board and something.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reminding the time.
Yeah.
10:02, so maybe to continue conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It's a really great
Okay.
presentation. I was thinking we'd have more of a
Discussion. Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, guys. I shall see you later. I think the next one is what time is it now? 4 o'clock. Ooh, I think I'm gonna have a free one. Back soon.